Hi, Kelly. It's Margie with Basmati. How are you?
I'm good, Margie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. For everyone listening, I know, me too. I'm super excited. I'm talking to Kelly Beard with Karmic Tools. .wordpress.com. However, that's going to be changing, so we will let you know when that does. And she's going to share a little bit about what she has done and maybe what's coming up in the future. She is spiritually intuitive and an astrologer, a shamanic astrologer, I should say. So I'm going to first ask you about that. Tell me the difference in shamanic astrology and the astrology that we hear about.
That is, I should have some language for that off the bat. But honestly, I call it earth-based astrology to a certain degree. We work with the cycles and patterns of the actual planet. And so shamanic astrology is when we engage directly. So, for example, what common everyday people know about is the new moon. We have the dark of the moon when it's no moon at all in the sky. And then when you first see the very first sliver, that's actually when indigenous people would honor the new moon. It's when you have that direct contact. So it's a little different than the information or solar base, which is about the sun signs and just very basic and general. And that's what I tell people about basic horoscopes are, hard to be honest and real because they are so general and they can apply, pretty across the board. But in astrology, it's infinite. We can tune into asteroids, planets, or stars, 6 stars and things. I choose about 14 things. I use the basic planet and the divine feminine asteroids. And so you kind of have to choose what you want with astrology because it's on and on and infinite. But I did start out with spiritual astrology, different various books that I often recommend to beginners by Jan Spiller. And it was spiritual astrology and astrology for the soul. And so I started out on this self-help path, learning for myself, trying to understand my own rhythm and patterns and understand how the cycles work for me. As I did that, I started developing workbooks and things because I'm a note taker, and I started creating these workbooks for each cycle, for each planet. And over the years, the only one that really took off in the world and with others was the Venus circle. So I have a really great workbook that works with the 18-month Venus cycle, and that's primarily what I'm up to right now while I'm in transition from karmictools.com to kellymbeard.com. So in the meantime, we're just honing and working on what that specialty might be going forward. But as far as the way things have gone, I started in, 96 when I got pregnant. I wanted to work from home, and I've always given the standard career advice of figure out what you love and figure out how to charge for it. But at the same time, I was an admin person or like an executive assistant in an office. So I do like to tell people I kind of was at the beginning of all the internet stuff, because that was 96. And by 98, I had the first computer, and 99, I had my first website, which was cosmicswitchboard.com. And because I was connecting people to various resources, and I love that. I collaborate with a lot of people, and so I love sharing different modalities and bringing the astrology in to support what others are doing as well. It's so kind of seamless. That's why Shanta Gabriel and I got together working. But I love what I do. And the one story about the beginnings that I think you and I might have spoken off air about was that I changed in my consciousness, in my mind, about whether I was an executive assistant or an astrologer, per se, like a title. Mm-hmm. And in 2003, I decided I am an astrologer and my office job is my side hustle. And by 2005, that was my last day job. So it only took 2 years, which looking back is really fast. Of course, it seemed eternal at the time.
Yes, so very fast.
But that's very fast when I look back. So you just got to claim it.
Yes, and you do it very well. And the work you do with Shanta it's so wonderful for me not only to have been able to participate with both of you, but also see, and I'm seeing this more and more, and you said it so perfectly, that bringing these modalities and people together and how we're working together now, where in the past I felt like, people were like, I'm the astrologer, and this is like the only way, right, yeah, right, and where it's really like, how cool is it that we can all come together and share our unique gifts and help not only our own consciousness, but those around us in the planet, right? And so it's so beautiful that everyone's opening up to this. It's so nice to see. It's really beautiful to be a part of. I want to thank you and Shanta both for that, because it's really cool, and it really gets our ego and pride out of the way, right? You know?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. We love what we do, and we really do have a lot of fun with it. And people that cross our paths, it's always in divine time and order. Even when I've had a delay in getting to someone, by the time I get to them, it is so perfectly on time. And even they know, and innately, they know the timing just wasn't right, and it's so natural. So shamanic astrology gives me that timing piece as well, because I give people permission to honor the cycle that's up at this moment, rather than being all twisted and focused on things that the energy is not there to support you. So my thing is all about energy, and rhythms and patterns and cycles is not for everybody, but it is kind of my specialty. So people coming to me don't show up often before the age of 28, 30. Because that's when you have enough time to track any patterns of your own, and when it starts to click that you're responsible for your own world by then, it all sort of falls into place at that point, and then you start wanting to work on yourself a little more and a little more. So my focus also ends up being the midlife transit, things that happen to everybody around the ages of 30, 40, 50, and 60. And there is a rhythm to it, and there is a pattern to it, and I have come up with some really fun ways of looking at life when you get to those repeated cycles and patterns. So you can do them in another way, do them in a new way. What I tell people is the cycles repeat, but the energy around them changes. You change. We all evolve. And so even though these cycles do repeat and there's a way to clock them, then it's still, you're in a different space every time. So you ought to be learning and growing in new and different ways every time. Now, I do have a little group I tell get off the sit and spin, because they get on that game for one and they go in circles, and it's cute and funny for a minute, but it's not really any fun for anyone else to participate. So I tell them, get off the sit and spin and call me.
Get off the sit and spin and call me. Yep.
That's it. When you're done, I'll be here.
So can you share maybe a couple of like the creative tools, or how you work with someone that way? If I come to you and I'm going through my cycle, is it not just readings, or like share?
Well, that's what happens. Okay, yes. I would look at your chart and I would see what activations are happening now, which would mean big transits, big things where planets in the sky have kind of gone back to the place where they were when you were born. And then I know which cycles are active in this at this time. So I would touch on that. But I would also want to understand, the individual's goal and why they were looking for, energetic support, or even wanting to know their blueprint any better. I personally do believe in that. Everyone's blueprint is unique and individual. And yes, we have generational things that we share, and yes, we have things in common. But, our individual rhythm is really unique and personal to that blueprint. And I've worked with it, like I said, personally, I was really hard for many, many years on myself. And learning my lessons to learn and lessons to teach, which are based on the eclipses that happen when during the 9 months you're in the womb. And so that revealed some really interesting family patterns. I do work a lot with what I call the ancestors and the angels and the animal spirit guides, but primarily since my early childhood, I've been dealing with a lot of death. And so I end up being the person holding hands with the animal or human spirit that is ready to transition. And it's something that when I started astrology in 99, and probably by the time I got to Karmic Tools in 07, I was thinking about specializing in Pluto, which rules death, sex, money, and power, among other things. But it's also the underworld, and it's the unconscious, the deep, deep subconscious stuff that is part of our roots and part of our healing process in whatever lifetime. But it's so dark and so heavy. And so I got to a place where I was like, okay, just because you're good at it doesn't mean you have to do it.
And you can still be good at it and still help when needed, right?
Right. Now it's upon request. It's not anything I want to specialize in. But, yes, people still call me, and it's fine the way it is.
That's so interesting because, Kelly, we haven't shared – I don't know that I've shared this with you, but I've definitely had that exact same experience my whole life, just so you know, and most recently has helped people transition out of this world multiple times in the last 4 years. And it is definitely something I was not eager, I'll say.
Want to specialize in,
right? Want to specialize in, but it's been a beautiful gift, actually.
Exactly.
And I'm very grateful for it. But I couldn't imagine doing that every day.
Exactly. So, and I have done some weddings and funerals, and there's like ceremony. I think I'm headed towards the ritual and ceremony way of developing my own and practicing and playing with others and expanding the circle. I mean, the one thing I would like to say after all these years of being online is that I am experiencing empty nest now, so my virtual circle knows that all along my intention was to get with them in person. And my primary cities at the moment where I have places to lay my head are D.C., New York, and Chicago, so it's pretty big, easy cities to get in and out of for me, and where quite a few people still are. But I have people all over the world, all over the world. I've always had a big international following. I seem to do better with other countries than a lot of American stuff. It's just different, you know, what people are into and turned on by.
Yeah, I do think that's shifting here, right?
It is, absolutely.
The fact that we can have this conversation, and you know, you'll have some YouTubes up soon through Kelly and Beard, which is great, right, with the weekly astrology, that more people are searching for this. Their souls are calling for it, actually, right?
It's true. And my language is layman's terms, so anybody can come along. They understand energy. They understand that much. And so that's what I do try to make sure that it's supportive of everyday functions. My stuff is applicable immediately because we need it right now. We need to understand what's happening to us so that we don't get sucked into the vortex of madness and go in circles. You know, that's my thing. You can be more effective when you understand little bits and pieces of yourself, and you can honor them as good and beautiful and genuine and part of you, and not be ashamed or put down by certain things that are just your nature. That's what I love. I love helping people get connected to their own nature, and then feeling that honor, feeling the need to honor their own nature without stomping on anybody to do it, and without violating others, absolutely, but just being okay with who you are. And once you understand your blueprint a little bit, things get a lot easier. And that past life thing, like I said, with the ancestors, I do have a really strong connection. They've always communicated with me. It's another thing that I shunned and pushed away because I felt like it was too much responsibility when they kept asking me and asking me and asking me to be that kind of mediator between them. And so I've accepted that one too. And they're not going away anyway, let me tell you. It's the connection has deepened, and it's gotten more, clear and obvious of how I should be moving along. But I'm tracking my own cycles, and I do practice what I preach, and I do not ask anyone to do anything I wouldn't do myself, and have it already a couple of cycles over. Like for the Venus cycle in particular, I started that in '99, tracking myself, and she has a small cycle, 18 months. And the way I explain it is every 18 months, many of us experience our values and priorities shifting in small ways, in just little personality kind of ways, personal ways. Then in big ways, every 8 years. Love and money just has this rebirthing cycle, this natural swapping off and rebirthing process that Venus can take us through. And so I took notes from 99 to 07 in my own personal journals and really tracked how she felt in my life and when I would feel those priority buttons being pushed, like you got to rearrange this is not working anymore. And that's my other point with people too along the way is that as humans, we get comfortable in our rhythms and then we get stuck in our rhythms. And it doesn't even occur to us to question things that are working just fine because they're working just fine. So we don't even question them until they go wrong. And it's so much easier to say, okay, every 18 months I got to look at this. And I've been doing it now for 16 years or more, and it really does help you make better decisions for you. It's not really, so much about the rest of the world or your spouse or your kids or whatever. It's when your priorities are straight, then functioning with the rest of your relationships is so much easier and so much better.
So much easier.
And it works when you work it.
It totally works when you work it. And there's been a calling for me since I was born. And as you say this, it has been the know thyself, like in every way possible. And that's it is, and that is not a selfish thing. It's a selfless thing, actually. And the more we know about ourselves and how we interact, the better we are for the consciousness, all of humanity, and our personal relationships. And all these tools help us find out a little bit more about the beauty and layers within ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like whether that
does go on and on. Exactly.
It does go on and on. Just like talking about tapping into the asteroids or the moon and the sun, right? Like we could go infinitely, truly infinitely into our ability to tap into things and ourselves. But it also gives us, and kind of cool that this is coming up on Independence Day, our freedom and true independence, right? Because when we go into that personal responsibility and knowing ourselves, that's where the true freedom is. Or at least for me, I should say. That gives me the freedom to really be who I am and understand and operate without other people's protection.
Question and doubt of yourself.
Right, that's right. Right. Yeah, without question and doubt. So
well, that's another thing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I just find it super cool that we're chatting about this today. Like I call it this my freedom day every day.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Let's honor it. Yeah. And we are so supported by the planets at this time. And what I've told people is some of the big ones, like Uranus is in Aries right now, which it only does every 84 years. So the last time it did that, it was the Depression time. But it's still, again, that cycle may be repeating, but the energy around it, all the other planets are in different places. We're in a different place as a country and as a unit, as a world. It's all different. However, being in Aries is really, this has been my tagline for a while lately, is that you have to do everything yourself, but you don't have to do it alone. And so I love my Venus Circle and my Power Circle, which is my original community that I started in '99, and a lot of people are still with me from then. And then 2007, when I birthed KarmicTools.com, that's when I had a whole new infusion of members and people that are still, like I said, been with me all these years. So it does go on, and like I said, the cycles repeat, but you learn so much. And as you get to know yourself and you get to understand what's happening in the people around you as well, just by understanding what's happening energetically within you and around you, then you can be a little more compassionate for others. You can be a little more patient, understanding that they're just where they're at, and you can't really be upset about that.
And also yourself, right?
Right, and it's self-preservation.
That's right, and understanding ourselves, and we can have, because I know for me, I can have true compassion and love for everyone around me, right? I may it doesn't mean I'm not frustrated sometimes, but giving that same to myself took me a lot of work. Right?
Yes, and I do work with people on that one a lot.
Yeah, because I think we forget about ourselves. Self-preservation. Yes, we forget about ourselves. And
we put ourselves last and first.
And
see, then the culture reinforces it, which also bugs me, because then they do weird things to your consciousness, thinking, labeling you as selfish, and that's not it. So that's why I've been pounding it. I'm like, it's not selfish, it's self-preservation. And if you don't take care of yourself, who do you think is going to? And that used to be one of my affirmations, that exercise and education are the purest forms of self-love, because nobody else can do that for you. You have to want to learn, and you have to move your body. That's just the way that is.
I use the analogy, and I've used this multiple times, actually, for myself on the airplane, the mask, the oxygen mask. And could you put it on yourself first? Could I have done that with my grandmother or great-grandmother beside me, or a child?
Could I do it with my son? Hello.
I don't know that I could
have.
Right?
You never know.
Right? Yeah, I don't know that I could have 10 years ago. Definitely not 20 years ago. Today,
maybe.
I would hope that I could. Right?
Exactly.
Because I know that's an extreme case of that, right? I know that's
it is.
But
you know what it is now? It's boundaries. That's another planetary piece. Chiron in Pisces has been there for about 10 years. 8 years, since 2010 to 2018. And what I told people is, for the generation of 60s babies who all have that placement, it's personal for you guys. But in general, it's also forcing all of us to have to do things ourselves. We also have to do our boundaries better back now, because we're too permeable and we are too connected in our hearts and our consciousness. And so we can feel what's going on around. We're human. We still have feelings. We still can feel everything going on around us, whether it matters or it's for us or not, it's specific to us, is irrelevant. You still have to learn that basic boundaries. So I do talk about hemp and bamboo You want boundaries that are super strong and super flexible and breathable, not brick walls, because you still got to know what's going on around you a little bit, but not so much that you're overwhelmed by it. And that's a practice that's become intensely real and necessary, and I believe I have enough testimonies of folks coming to me for sure, and then in my own life, of boundaries, and how to do that properly in a social setting, in a work setting, in a personal setting, and then retraining your personal people, your husbands and wives and children and people who you have now conditioned to that you're going to be a certain way, and you wake up and change. You know, I just tell people you've got to find the language to say, you know what, I used to be that way, or I used to feel that way, or I used to think that way, but I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Or until now. Until now, I have new information. I've changed. You've changed. The planets have moved. It's a new day. Let's do this a new way. And sometimes you have to lead people with that. It's not something they'll do automatically, which is what I was saying about that 18-month cycle. We don't change our values and priorities unless something happens. So now when you tune into a rhythm and you start to pay attention to yourself, you start to know you can work so much better. And I will say I've manifested a beautiful, loving, unbelievable family. I just didn't focus on work and money, so that's not what grew. I focused on love and family, but I did it with all of these tools and all of these principles and applying myself this way. And that was, in my household, everyone looks in the mirror first. What is it about you that attracted this little incident or whatever? Or, you know, whatever we talk. Right. Yeah, everybody owns their stuff first, and then we talk about her feelings and how it got presented, and on this day, did you think about that? You know, you do have to consider those things with the people you live with, but at the same time, let's just get the truth on the table, and then we'll deal with what is, and then we can deal with how to do that better. Because nobody really knows how, because nobody trains us on this stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. So, I was just going to say, can we do an open communication book and a boundary book, right? And start with, I mean, obviously we can start that within our homes right now, right? And it takes practice. Right? It takes practice. Even, you know, if I'm working on something and I understand, or you know, if the planets are, I'm going through whatever it is, I'm very clear about
intensity.
Well, this is a bit of a challenging time for me, so I'm going to practice, you know, saying things right. But if I come across, please let me know, because I don't want to, you know, I know that what I'm experiencing right now is this, and that's just dialogue, right, and communication, and sharing what's being expressed.
Nothing personal.
Boundaries are one I wish we could definitely get that for the younger generation. You know, if we could start with boundaries in kindergarten, how great would that be, right? Right.
Exactly. We got some choice classes we would add to the educational system for sure.
Absolutely.
And so then you just got to do it with humans along the way. And I do have one funny personal responsibility story. Recently, I was making a set of the Venus books because I self-published those. And I was in Staples, and I had my little, you know, key that you put your information on. I know there's a word for it. It's coming to me right now. External hard drive. You know what I mean. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I need my key back. And she went into this whole story about how this woman had left hers, gone away for 3 months, and came back and cussed everybody out in the store because they didn't give her her key back. And now, of course, they couldn't find it. And I looked at her dead in her face, and I said, you know what, don't ever let them put that on you. I said, that's my key, that's my responsibility. And that was the first thing I had said. And then she told me the story. I was like, oh, no, don't ever let them do that to you. That's not your stuff. You're not supposed to manage their stuff. I mean, it would be nice if you handed it back. You know what I mean? It would be nice when it works that way, but you can't put that on other people. And not somebody in that kind of public position where they're getting called in 8 different directions, you know, all day long.
And that's a small way of saying that, but
but she was so grateful. She was like, thank you. Oh, my God, I never thought of it that way. I'm like, what, are you kidding?
No, it is. And we're responsible for our actions and how we engage in the world also, right? So it's not just with our key when we're getting copies made. It's with how we handle ourselves, our energy, our projection, you know, all of that. And it's really cool when we start looking at things that way. You know, when we start looking at things that way, we interact differently. And the work you do, like, leads us that way. Anytime we know ourselves more and understand how not only what's going on in ourselves, right? That showing up for yourself and learning more about yourself is already taking personal responsibility, right?
Yeah.
But
yes,
then,
and a lot of people don't do it. So the ones that do, we really got to support them.
Yes,
we really love you guys. So look
a lot,
handling your stuff. Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
So currently, right now, anyone can reach Kelly at karmictools.wordpress.com. You can find her on Basmati. And I'm hoping we'll come back and do another one of these, or maybe branching out here. We're both going on the wild side. Could do a video recording or something if you'd like.
Yeah. We live on the edge around here.
Yeah, maybe we can do a reading, maybe a planetary reading or a consciousness reading. You can give that some thought and let me know.
Actually, I do have a monthly update that I do, an audio update, and it's an MP3. It's not a YouTube. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But
so
it is a subscription, and I gave away this month for free. Actually, the Gemini one is up on the WordPress site somewhere for free.
Okay.
And but yes, there's a monthly. We can do anything when we get together. Next time we can talk about the general energies going on, or we can talk about one particular cycle that's rebooting, or whatever you feel.
You pick. You get some thought on that, and then we'll definitely do that. And I didn't realize you did the monthly subscription, so maybe we'll chat about that a little bit next time. Maybe we could do the reading and then chat about that next time and how people can tap into that.
Definitely, because that one is a general for everyone, but I also have a subscription for certain people that like to ask a question every month. There are some serious people.
Perfect. Love. I'm going to explore that a little bit more. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time today, and happy Freedom Day.
Yes, indeed. Let's build on that. It is just beginning.
It is. Okay, and you have a beautiful day.
Thank you, darling.
And much love to you. Okay.
You too.
Bye, honey.